Kenshi saved my life. See, before I played Kenshi, I was one of the worst types of people imaginable. Yeah, a World of Warcraft player. It was the year 2018, and I was living in my mother's basement. I hadn't showered for 3 days because the new WoW expansion, Battle for Azeroth, had just dropped. But thankfully, I had just bought one of the best devices to ever exist. The shitter, no quitter. With this bad boy, I could play World of Warcraft without having to waste a second of my precious raid time on bio breaks, allowing for maximum DPS. But one day, I logged online and my entire guild had abandoned me. They all went to go play Final Fantasy Online, one of the worst games to ever exist, right next to Elder Scrolls Online, of course. Because of this, I immediately became empty and lacking of purpose. And as the days began to turn into years without my precious World of Warcraft raids, I had thoughts of overdosing on Dad's Viagra just to feel something again. As I began writing my final note to the only person who ever loved me, Amaranth, a YouTube video caught my attention. The complete existential adventures of Tor Solo. I thought to myself, what the hell is a Kenshi? And how can this guy play a game as only a torso? That's ridiculous. I clicked on the video and watched the complete series. Seconds later, my Pokemon wallet flung open, and I immediately began researching all I could about Kenshi before buying it. And before I knew it, my hand was hovering over the buy button. In that moment, I bought Kenshi and never looked back. And I'm here to tell you why you should too. Now, I know what you're all wondering. Why should I buy Kenshi, and what the hell is it? Well, let me answer that question with another question. Have you ever opened the refrigerator, waiting for food to appear even when you haven't bought groceries? Has the idea of being racist ever sounded appealing to you? Have you ever wanted to commit mass genocide? If you answered yes to any of those questions, some people might tell you that you need therapy. But the truth is, you don't need any of that. You just need Kenshi. Kenshi is an indie real-time strategy, open-world RPG, base builder, sandbox survival, post-apocalyptic single-player game. All that's to say, Kenshi is a truly unique experience, and I can't compare it to other games because the truth is, there is really no other game like Kenshi. So instead of telling you why Kenshi is so awesome, I'm gonna show you. Kenshi has 13 different starts you can choose from. A guy with a dog, an alcoholic who's hit rock bottom in their lives, a thief who stole one of the legendary holy swords, a slave, and plenty more other starts in the game. But I like dogs, so of course I chose to start off as a guy with a dog. When you choose to start, you'll have 4 different races to choose from. And within those races lie different sub-races. Depending on the race and sub-race you choose will change how the world of Kenshi responds to you. For starters, you can be a white male, usually one of the easiest starts if you ask me. They exceed in farming and technology. There's even a group of holy devout warriors who would gladly take you in, as long as you're fine with being racist and committing mass genocide. Or you can spawn in as the Shek. They are complete meatheads who excel in battle, but that's about all they're good at. They like to spend their spare time fighting to the death. Then there's the Hive, a hive mind who follows the queen. But some do break free and become sentient. They excel at getting their limbs cut off and just about everything else in the game. Or lastly, you can spawn in as the skeleton race, probably one of the best races to start off in the game. The only issue is everyone hates them and wants to kill them because they're so powerful. But the beauty of Kenshi is no matter what race you choose, over time you can gain multiple different races and sub-races through inviting characters to join your party. I chose to start off as a Shek named Gunther, and I named my dog Scrappy. As I spawned in the game, the first thing I noticed is that I was hungry. But as I looked around me, the only thing that I saw was desert stretched out for miles. So I started to leave my ravaged hamlet in search of food. I thought I was going to starve in that desert, but thankfully, I ran into a group of soldiers who looked well fed. They stopped me and asked if I was hungry, and I thought to myself, finally, there's someone who can help me in this game. I said yes and said I was starving. But this is where the world of Kenshi shows its true, cruel nature. After admitting I was starving, the band of soldiers began to attack me for breaking the law. Apparently in this territory, it's illegal to be hungry or poor, and soon me and Scrappy lay unconscious on the ground. I'm not sure if the soldiers had planned to imprison me or just kill me, but I'd never find out, because soon another party called the Holy Nation crossed paths with the soldiers, and as they engaged in battle, I was left there, bleeding out on the ground. And within the first 10 minutes of my playthrough, me and Scrappy lay dead in the barren desert. But I noticed something weird about my death in Kenshi. When I died, the game didn't prompt me to start a new game or even give me a death screen. The world just kept going on without me. The two factions kept fighting, and the world didn't look much different from when I had spawned in it. See, the world of Kenshi is living and breathing, and that is what's beautiful about the game. You can choose to change it with your actions, but if you don't, Kenshi will go on without you and a new story will form. See, I was used to playing games that make you feel like you are the strongest main character to ever exist. But the truth is, in Kenshi, you're just some dude with stats just like everyone else. It is very possible to become the strongest character alive, but the game doesn't just give you this. If you want to be the strongest character in Kenshi, you will have to be patient, willing to learn, and really fast at running away from enemies. So like a true glutton for punishment, I started up a new game of Kenshi. This time, I understood more about Kenshi. When I saw the same samurai men who had killed me for being poor, I decided to sneakily follow their party. And soon enough, they had ran into yet another battle with the Holy Nation. But this time, I stayed back and allowed the battle to play out. Soon, the Holy Nation soldiers had outnumbered the samurai, and I was able to steal armor off one of the unconscious soldiers. And with this armor, I was able to blend in as one of the samurai guards, using the disguise system in Kenshi. As me and Scrappy journeyed throughout the desert, we ran into yet another faction. Normally, they would have no issue with me and wouldn't have attacked me, but because I was wearing a United Cities disguise, and these rebel farmers just so happened to hate capitalist scum, the soldiers began attacking me and Scrappy, and soon we were knocked out on the ground. Luckily, unlike my last playthrough, I had some armor, so I was able to stop the blow from being fatal and killing me, and I was only out for a few seconds. But in those few seconds, I was not able to save Scrappy. As I lay unconscious on the floor, Scrappy was being butchered for meat. And in the end, it was only me who made it out of the desert that day. But I will never forget my dog Scrappy. One of the reasons a lot of people stray away from Kenshi is because they say that Kenshi has no story. But if that's true, then how could I tell you about the rise and fall of Gunther and his dog Scrappy? I didn't mention this in the story, but Scrappy was still alive after he got attacked. He was just severely wounded, and I didn't have a way to heal him. So I ate Scrappy.
You need to leave!
It was sadly the only way I would have made it out the desert without starving to death. But that's the beauty of Kenshi. The game doesn't give you any type of traditional quests to follow. But even without these, you can still formulate an awesome story just based off how the world and the people in it interact with you. Once you put your dog killing days behind you, you can grow even stronger and more powerful in Kenshi. As I mentioned earlier, everyone in Kenshi has stats. That determines how powerful a character is. You just happen to be one of the most unpowerful characters in the game when you start, with all your stats starting at 1. But as you gear up your character, get beaten up more, and fight more, you'll soon be a force to be reckoned with. And all of a sudden, your character that was easily dying to starving bandits can now take on multiple soldiers at once. But in Kenshi, you'll find out very quickly that everyone is stronger in numbers. Although your lone character is able to take on multiple soldiers, you'll still run into squads with dozens or even hundreds of troops. This is where recruiting characters comes in. Throughout Kenshi, you'll find a multitude of lazy alcoholics to recruit to your party. These characters aren't the strongest, but they get the job done. For an insane amount of doubloons, they'll join your party, and the more troops you have, the more merciful the world of Kenshi feels. Once you take your one-man army to a ragtag group of adventurers, it'll feel natural to want to explore the world around you. And Kenshi absolutely thrives in making a compelling and interesting world. As you venture out more and more into the world of Kenshi, you'll find all types of discoveries. Big boobied cannibals, people who worship crabs, skeletons that think they're humans, humans that think they're skeletons, and even people who say nothing to you but beep. The exploration in Kenshi is absolutely the best part about the game, and exploring the world and uncovering every secret in it will take dozens or even hundreds of hours. The world that just had some random hungry man in the desert has now turned into so much more. The biomes in the game really take you by surprise. There's the ashlands, the swamps, the deadlands, and so many other regions to explore in the game. Each biomes have their own unique lore and NPCs that make them all feel very special and unique. After exploring the world of Kenshi, gearing up your soldiers with crazy loot, and training them to a point where they feel powerful, it'll only feel natural to want to build a place that you can call home. Here is where the base building aspect of Kenshi comes in. This one aspect of the game opens up an entire other world of possibilities. To create buildings and items in your base, you'll need a research bench. But in order to create a research bench, you'll need building materials and resources found across the map. Now, if you have the money, you can spend time going to every store in the map and buying essential resources you need. This is a bit tedious, but if you got the cash and the time, you can completely skip having to farm any type of resources in Kenshi. Your other option is hiring troops specifically meant for researching, farming, and gathering resources across your base. But let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the topic of slavery? In Kenshi, slavery is an absolutely essential part of the economy. And personally, I'm all for it. I'm not gonna spend over $100,000 hiring exceptionally good characters to work at my base when I can just spend thousands of dollars on dozens of slaves. In Kenshi, slavery is what I like to call an investment. And the best part about it is everyone does it. The Holy Nation, the Hivers, the United Cities, and tons of other factions. The only people who don't are some woke group of anti-capitalists who eat dust sandwiches called the anti-slavers. But don't mind them, you just stick to slavery. Slavery in Kenshi will increase your productivity by tenfold. But just because this type of slavery in Kenshi is accepted doesn't mean all types of slavery are. There are several types of slavery in Kenshi. Let's touch on a few of them. The Holy Nation is a group of xenophobic individuals who usually enslave people. They enslave people who are considered blackened. When I first heard this, I just thought they were being racist. But it turns out anyone who doesn't follow their religion of worshipping Okran is considered blackened. After looking into this more, they are still racist, just not against Scorchlandus. Specifically, they're racist or xenophobic towards any non-human race in the game. The Holy Nation enslaves people not for business opportunities like myself, but so that they can repent for their sins of being alive in the name of Okran. Then there's the United Cities, a bunch of capitalist pigs. They enslave people for completely moral causes. The whole idea is that in the United Cities, no matter who you are, as long as you aren't poor of course, you can build up your way to be an equal status member with enough money. But as their ideology is highly based on income, someone has to do the work, so they outlaw being poor and make anyone who's poor a slave to make them money. But my favorite group of slavers in Kenshi has to be the Reavers. They don't enslave you because you're poor or because you're some type of sin to the world. They purely enslave you so you can prove yourself by fighting in the glory of battle. If the Reavers enslave you, they'll carry you around and have you fight all of their battles as frontline soldiers. It's said that once upon a time, all Reavers used to be slaves, and by fighting their way to the top, they gained status as a rightful member of the Reaver party. These aren't the only slavery types in Kenshi, but these are some of the ones I found the most interesting to share. After you choose how you want to proceed with leveling up your base, slaves or no slaves, factions will interact with your base depending on several proximity-based events. For instance, if you live near the cannibals, they'll send meat raids to you, where you either offer yourself up as an oiled up shish kebab, or you die by their ancient meat beating techniques. You can also build a base near the Holy Nation, which is completely fine as long as you have read their fanfiction and have a human on your team who's able to lie to the Holy Nation, saying that any non-human members of your team aren't your equals, but they're just slaves. Or one of my favorites is you can live near the crab raiders, who will send hordes of crabmen and their respective crabs to raid your base during an ultimate crab tournament. And by winning the tournament, you can ally with the crab raiders and live amongst them. Of course, as long as you have a crab. No matter where you choose to live in Kenshi or how you choose to play, Kenshi has a different type of playthrough for everyone. Whether it's reading the word of Okran by killing or enslaving any non-human character, stopping the quote-unquote cruel acts of slavery by joining the anti-slavers and rebuilding society, or simply becoming an AI overlord and eradicating all of humanity. And that's what I love about Kenshi. Kenshi is not a game that builds a story for you, but a game that you build a story for yourself. And if you are interested in checking Kenshi out, you should take the chance on it the same way that I did. So go out there and enslave the world, or be racist, or hell, even commit genocide. I don't care what you do as long as it's in Kenshi. If the sad story of Gunther and Scrappy touched your heart, make sure to like the video. And if you're looking for more Kenshi content, check out my series where I become an AI overlord by extracting human brains out their buttholes and putting them into my robot armies.